In this forecast, severe weather including tornadoes is possible on Friday this week, and heavy snowfall is possible for portions of the Central Plains and New England corridor. Everything you need to know on Project Gladiator. Hello everyone and welcome back to another Project Gladiator Weekly Overlook, and today I'll be covering the weather for the week of March 10th until around March 17th. I hope everyone is having an amazing week so far. However, it is only the beginning of the week. Something I do want to note is that I am going to be going on vacation starting tomorrow, which is why I am making this video kind of a day early. I am recording this at 1 a.m. so it is technically the day I am supposed to be leaving. However, something I do want to note is that overall quantity, potentially quality, and overall production speed is expected to decrease over this week. However, I am going to try and make at least one video, especially for the risk for severe thunderstorms on Friday. So keep that in mind. I may have that out on Friday. However, expect some limitations with that depending on what's going on. However, let's start off with a Jetstream pattern so we can get a general idea of what's currently going on and what is expected. So as of right now, we are looking at a trough that is currently working its way out into the Atlantic. This trough isn't really all that much of a concern anymore, but we have one trough that's further down to the south, and then we're also getting another push out of the north here, and this is mainly just leading to the potential of some heavy snowfall and some rainfall for the New England corridor, and shouldn't really pose all that much of a concern or all that much of a potential for severe thunderstorms. However, the main thing that we are expected to be watching for this week is going to be this trough in particular. We are expected to see a positively tilted trough and a low pressure system that's going to be back into the southwest, and that is going to advect out into the Central Plains. This is expected to push on a lot of moisture that is expected to rise out of the Gulf of Mexico, and as that builds and as that's pushed on, that is going to create a dry line along the Mississippi River Valley and potentially into the Central Plains, and lead to the potential for severe thunderstorms across the Central Plains and potentially back into the Mississippi River Valley as well. This is going to have some limitations, however, because the majority of our forcing is expected to be back into the southwest, where our trough is currently located, and even more limitations with the fact that it is positively tilted and the base is all the way back in Arizona and Southern California. And models do need some time to figure out what they're doing. The majority of the models have agreed on the bare minimum of the fact that there is going to be a trough in this location. However, some models have been throwing in a shortwave trough and some models haven't. So overall, the models kind of do need some time to figure out what they're doing. But one thing that is certain is the fact that we are expected to see at least some sort of a risk for severe thunderstorms along that dry line that may develop, which has become a certainty with model runs recently. However, they are definitely expected to change with time. But again, we should be watching for the potential for severe thunderstorms in this red circle. Taking a look at our composite reflectivity and our simulated radar, I'm going to be going over the when and where we are expected to see our snowfall, our rain showers, and the potential for severe thunderstorms this week. We are going to go through this day by day so things don't get too confusing. So let's start off with what we are currently seeing right now. We are currently watching a ton of rainfall across a lot of the eastern half of the United States, and we did have the risk for severe thunderstorms across Florida earlier today. And that is expected to turn into the risk for snowfall as we move into the 10th across the New England corridor and potentially even back into places such as Michigan and the Ohio River Valley, and maybe even back into Indiana. That is going to continue to progress into the 11th. However, it is expected to clear out by the 12th. And we are expected to continue to see heavy snowfall for a lot of the Rocky Mountains. I'm not really going to cover the snowfall that's going to be in the Rocky Mountains all that much because we typically see this time of year, and I'm also not really going to cover the rainfall that's going to be across the Pacific Northwestern coast because we also typically see this time of year. So overall, I'm not really too concerned about that. However, as we move into the 13th, we may be able to see some rain showers for some portions of the Mississippi River Valley and some snowfall for the Rocky Mountains. And then as we move into the 14th, we are expected to see a band of rainfall with northward advection, especially in the low levels, along a surface low, along the north side of a surface low that is expected expected to develop that is going to drape a dry line across the central plains of Mississippi River Valley, leading to the potential for severe thunderstorms. And as that advances further to the west into an area of much colder temperatures that may turn into snow for some portions of the central plains, including South Dakota, western Nebraska, and maybe even Wyoming, but then also including the Rocky Mountains there as well. And then we may also be able to see some snowfall develop as we may get another band of snowfall for some of the upper peninsula of Michigan back into Wisconsin and northern Michigan, and that is expected to move into the New England corridor on the 15th, and the 15th is also going to be when we are expected to see the potential for severe thunderstorms across the Mississippi River Valley and the Central Plains. And then as we move into the 16th, we are expected to continue to see snowfall for the New England corridor, but then we may also get another push out of the north, which may lead to some snowfall for a lot of the northern Central Plains and the northern Midwest as well as some rain showers. And then as we move into the 17th, which is Sunday, which is going to be the final day that I'm going to cover for timing, we are expected to maybe get another chance for severe thunderstorms across the deep southeast. However, I haven't really looked at models for this, and I'm not really too concerned about this because moisture is going to be very questionable with the risk for severe thunderstorms that just happened on the 15th. But we may also be able to see some snow mixed in with that across a lot of the Ohio River Valley, and then widespread rainfall across a lot of the eastern half of the United States. Taking a look at our temperatures and how they are expected to be affected by rainfall and the potential for severe thunderstorms, and also what our fronts are expected to look like as far as the risk for severe thunderstorms. So let's start off with what we are expected to see with the trough that just passed through and the early couple of days this week. We are expected to see a push out of the north here as a result of the trough out of the north, and that is expected to bring temperatures that are going to potentially reach below freezing at night and may even continue to stay below freezing for some portion of the daytime across portions of the New England corridor. However, the Central Plains, you can tell, is going to stay really warm as well, and any areas that may have been affected by that push should begin to warm up relatively quickly, quite quickly actually, and places such as Illinois, Tennessee, Kentucky may be able to see temperatures that may reach the 50s and 60s as early as the day right after the push, so the 11th or the 12th, and the Central Plains is expected to see temperatures that may even begin to rise up to the 70s, the low 70s, and that's going to continue to build until around the 15th, when we are expected to see a cold front that's going to be behind the dry line. The dry line is going to be the primary thing that's going to trigger our severe thunderstorms. A dry line is kind of like a cold front, but with moisture instead of cold and warm temperatures. And that is expected to push a lot of heat out of the Central Plains. However, you can also tell that the Central Plains may be able to recover in heat quite quickly. However, it is definitely expected to be quite slow, and some portions of the northern Central Plains may even be able to see temperatures that may reach the 60s as early as the 19th. So we shouldn't really see heat return as quickly as some of the other weeks where we've had a powerful cold front and heat return almost immediately. So heat return may be a little bit slower, but we should definitely see heat return by at least next week. Taking a look at our instability or our fuel for severe thunderstorms, I'm going to begin to go in depth on the risk for severe thunderstorms that may be possible on the 15th. So if you're not interested in that, if you're more interested in the potential for heavy snowfall across the U.S. this week, there are timestamps in the description, so you can skip to that. And in the red bar that runs along the bottom of the YouTube video, that is split up into chunks, so you can choose what you want to watch as far as the risk for severe thunderstorms or the potential for heavy snowfall. So please feel free to use that if you would like. However, as far as the risk for severe thunderstorms and what we are expected to see as far as our fuel for severe thunderstorms, we are expected to see quite a bit of fuel for severe thunderstorms return quite quickly. until around Friday, when we are expected to see a dry line, and that is going to fire up some storms in a area of a insane amount of instability. We are expected to see Cape values or instability values, which is kind of like the fuel for severe thunderstorms. We may be able to see Cape values that may even be able to get upwards of the 2000s, 2200s, 2300s, 2400s, which is extremely decent, and we should have absolutely no limitations whatsoever as far as instability. A lot of models have been agreeing with at least 1500 joules per kilogram of instability, which is already more than enough to support the risk for severe thunderstorms. And if we push that to 2000, that is even more supportive of a risk for severe thunderstorms. So we shouldn't really have any problems whatsoever with instability. I think the major limitations is what's going to come from our trough, with the fact that it's going to be back in the southwest. So again, we should be fine as far as instability and our fuel for severe thunderstorms, but again, the main limitations is from the trough. Taking a look at our supercell composites, what this does is it kind of combines every parameter and every little thing in the atmosphere to kind of give us the best idea of what the risk for severe thunderstorms may look like across the U.S. Keep in mind that this doesn't give us a percentage, but we can use this to infer what the potential for severe thunderstorms may be like across the United States this week, and generally speaking, where and kind of how intense they may be. So, with the overlays of our instability being these contours that you are seeing, the colors that are filled in is our supercell composites. And on the 15th, we are seeing very indicative supercell composites of the potential for severe thunderstorms across the Mississippi River Valley and the Central Plains. Again, it does look like mainly northeastern Texas, eastern Oklahoma, Arkansas, southwestern Missouri, and eastern Kansas looks to be probably the hot spot for severe thunderstorms on the 15th, and our supercell composites are very supportive of the potential for severe thunderstorms. Taking a look at our energy helicity index values, what this does is it combines our instability and our directional shear to give us the best idea of the risk for tornadoes across the United States. This is kind of like supercell composites, where it doesn't give us a percentage, but it does combine multiple parameters to give us the general idea of what the potential for tornadoes may look like across the United States this week. Energy helicity index values are very supportive of the potential for tornadoes across the Central Plains and the Mississippi River Valley on the 15th. You can see very supportive energy helicity index values that may be able to get up to 1 or 2, which again are very supportive of the potential for tornadoes across the Central Plains and the Mississippi River Valley. So again, keep in mind, models are expected to change with time, so the risk for severe thunderstorms isn't set in stone entirely yet, and models are subject to change. However, a lot of models have been very supportive of the risk for severe thunderstorms, despite the fact that they still need to figure some things out and agree with one another. The bare minimum has been reached and has been supporting the potential for at least some sort of a risk for tornadoes and the potential for severe thunderstorms. Taking a look at the SPC, or the Storm Prediction Center, so we can take a look at what they currently have issued for the risk for severe thunderstorms for this week. Keep in mind that these outlooks that you're about to see are subject to change over time by the time these dates roll around, and the majority of these outlooks will almost definitely change by the time these dates roll around. So what you're about to see isn't entirely set in stone, and the SBC does need time to update these outlooks. So keep that in mind, that some things are expected to be different by the time these roll around. However, notice the click to see valid 1Z to 12Z day 1 convective outlook. That is because I am recording this so late at night. So it has already pushed to our day 2 outlook, which isn't really indicating all that much of a risk for severe thunderstorms. However, some portions of the United States should see some general thunderstorms that shouldn't be severe. However, for day 4 to day 8 outlooks, this is where things definitely get interesting, because for day 6 outlook, the SPC currently has a 15% issued for the 15th for northeastern Texas, including the Dallas-Fort Worth area and into southern Oklahoma. Based on what I've currently seen with the majority of model runs, I kind of think that the SBC is probably going to extend the slight risk to kind of look something like this in a day or two. They may need some time to update the outlooks. However, based on what I've seen, I think the slight risk, which is equivalent of a 15%, which is what is issued there, I think should probably be extended to look something like this based on what I've seen so far. So again, keep in mind that the SBC has already picked up on the risk for severe thunderstorms on the 15th. Hopping back over to take a look at our weather models, we're going to be going over the risk for heavy snowfall across the United States this week, starting off their total snowfall outlooks and generally where we are expected to see the potential for snowfall and where we should see more snowfall than other locations. Keep in mind that I have already gone over where we should see snowfall in our timing and our composite reflectivity. However, I am going to touch on it again with this model. And so I'm just going to skip ahead here to the 17th when the majority of the snowfall for this week has already fallen. We are expected to see the majority of our snowfall across the New England corridor. Keep in mind that these values are probably much higher than what we are expected to see in real life. We are probably not going to see 40 inches of snowfall across the New England corridor by the 17th, and that is probably a wild amount for these model runs to have right now. But it is indicating that we should see the majority of our snowfall across the New England corridor, excluding the Rocky Mountains, and then we should also see some snowfall for the northern Central Plains and potentially even down into Michigan and the Midwest. Another location that we are expected to see snowfall is going to be across the Central Plains, including eastern Wyoming, eastern Colorado, western Nebraska, and South Dakota, where we could see some heavy snowfall. Again, these values are probably much higher than what we are expected to see in reality, but it does go to show that we do have the potential for snowfall across the northern Central Plains. And then again, if you haven't noticed already, we are expected to see the potential for heavy snowfall across the majority of the Rocky Mountains this week. Taking a look at our WBC outlooks for the potential for heavy snowfall across the United States this week, we're going to be doing the same thing with our SPC outlooks, where we're just going to go over day by day the risk for heavy snowfall. So for today and tomorrow on the 11th and the 12th, we are mainly looking at the potential for very heavy snowfall across the New England corridor as mentioned, as well as portions of the Rocky Mountains as mentioned. And then as we move into day 3, which is the 13th, we are expected to see that clear out into Canada. But again, we should continue to see heavy snowfall for the Rocky Mountains. As we move into the 14th, we are going to continue to see heavy snowfall for the Rocky Mountains. However, we should see some snowfall push into some of the flatter terrain areas, such as far western Nebraska and into eastern Wyoming and eastern Colorado there. As we move into the 15th, we are expected to continue to see heavy snowfall for southeastern Wyoming, western Nebraska, and eastern Colorado, including the rest of the Rockies. And then for our 16th, we are expected to continue to see heavy snowfall for the New England corridor, as well as the potential for some heavy snowfall for the upper peninsula of Michigan and northern Wisconsin. And then for the 17th, we are expected to see the potential for heavy snowfall for some portions of the upper peninsula of Michigan. It's very hard to see, but there is a small area of green there. And the potential for heavy snowfall for the New England corridor, the far northern New England corridor in Maine there. So those are our outlooks for heavy snowfall. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator and join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator. If you live in any of the areas I covered for this week, please stay weather alert for the time being, especially for the 15th. If you notice anything might have been wrong in this forecast, or you'd like to make a suggestion or ask a question, please leave a comment. I do read them. 3 other channels I highly suggest you check out are One Nation Weather, Weather Watcher, and JaxonWX. Weather Watcher does make weather forecasts for Europe if you are interested in those, and JaxonWX does storm chasing content, and One Nation Weather does amazing, more long-term videos, more digestible videos for the average viewer for the weather for the United States. So if you are interested in that, please go check out their channels, and hopefully I'll be able to see you guys at some point this week with another forecast.